Meat Hat Circus, hell on wheels. The old man sat hunched in the dim glow of a single bare bulb inside his battered trailer on the ragged edge of Willow Creek, a speck of a town in the American Midwest that time had mostly forgotten. Cornfields stretched out forever under the night sky, their dry stalks whispering like old bones rubbing together. The air inside the trailer smelled of stale coffee, cigarette smoke, and the faint metallic bite that never quite left his memories, no matter how many years passed. In his gnarled, liver-spotted hands, he clutched a fresh poster, the red ink still looking wet enough to smear. The Meat Hat Circus, final performance, free admission. Come see the truth. He stared at it for a long, silent minute, then began to speak in a low, gravelly voice that carried the weight of 30 lost years. I was 23 back in the summer of '98. Willow Creek wasn't much even then, a dying little heartland town where the grain silos stood like rusty tombstones and the only jobs left were at the feed mill or the truck stop. The downtown had 3 empty storefronts for every open one. Kids graduated high school and either joined the military or drove west on I-80 and never came back. The rest of us stayed because we didn't know where else to go. Me, my girlfriend Sarah, and my best friend Mike, we were the 3 who still acted like the world owed us something. Sarah worked the night shift at the diner, always smiling with those dimples that made half the town stupid. Mike fixed cars at Reed's garage and could make you laugh even when your paycheck bounced. I pumped gas and tried to write half-finished songs on an old guitar I could barely play. We spent most nights cruising the back roads in my beat-up Chevy, drinking warm beer from paper bags, talking about how one day we'd leave this town behind. We believed it, or at least we needed to believe it. That particular Friday night, the heat was thick and sticky. We were parked out by the old water tower, windows down, radio playing low. Around 11 o'clock, a couple of kids from the high school pulled up in a dented pickup and started talking loud enough for us to hear. Some kind of circus had just appeared overnight on the old fairgrounds past the grain silos. No posters, no radio ads, no advance team handing out flyers at the diner. Just there. A big black tent with red lights. Free admission. Word was spreading fast through the trailer parks and the bars. Sarah laughed that bright, easy laugh of hers and said, "Sounds like exactly the kind of stupid we need tonight." Mike slapped my shoulder and grinned. "Come on, man. When's the last time anything exciting happened in this shithole?" I shrugged, finished my beer, and we piled into the Chevy. The drive out there took 20 minutes on a potholed county road, the cornfields pressed close on both sides, headlights cutting tunnels through the dark. When we finally pulled up, the fairgrounds looked exactly like they always had, cracked asphalt, weeds pushing through the cracks, the skeleton of an old Ferris wheel rusting in the corner. Except now a massive black canvas tent squatted in the middle of it all, like it had grown there. Red bulbs lined the edges, pulsing slow and steady, the way a heart beats when it's afraid. Wooden wheels, old and splintered, sat half-sunk in the dirt beneath the tent walls. No generators humming, no trucks, no ticket booth except one skinny guy in a faded suit. We weren't alone. Half the town had shown up. Old Mrs. Harlan, the widow who knew every secret before the people involved did, hobbled along with her cane. Tommy Reed, the mechanic whose wife showed up at church with new bruises every other Sunday, arrived with a 6-pack under his arm. Pastor Wilkins's 16-year-old daughter Emily was there with a group of friends, trying to hide the way her sweater stretched over her belly. The quiet librarian who always smelled faintly of whiskey. The used car salesman with the plastic smile. Faces you saw every day at the gas station or the laundromat. We paid nothing. The ticket taker had no real face, just a mask of cracked white paint stretched into a permanent lipless grin that never reached his eyes. "Welcome," he rasped. "Tonight everyone sees exactly what they are." Inside, the air hit us like a wet blanket, burnt cotton candy, sawdust, and underneath it all, a sweet, heavy rot like meat left too long in the sun. The benches were rickety wood, half the lights flickering. The calliope organ in the corner played a cheerful melody that was always half a beat off, like a music box with a broken spring. Only 40 or 50 people filled the seats, but the tent felt overcrowded, suffocating, as if the canvas itself was breathing. The early acts were almost ordinary, almost comforting in their familiarity. Knife throwers in striped vests sent blades whistling past volunteers from the crowd, always missing by the width of a hair. Contortionists twisted their bodies into shapes that made your own bones ache in sympathy, joints popping louder than the weak applause. A fire-eater swallowed flames that smelled strangely of sulfur and pork fat. Then the lights dimmed to a deep, bloody red, and the ringmaster stepped forward. They called him the Meat Hat. He was impossibly tall and thin, dressed in a faded crimson tailcoat that hung on him like loose skin. Atop his head sat the nightmare itself, a bulging, pulsating hat stitched together from layers of human skin and raw, glistening meat. It quivered with every breath he took. The brim dripped slowly, thick, dark fluid running down his shoulders in slow rivulets. His fingers had too many joints, clicking like insect legs. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, voice smooth as oil sliding over broken glass. "Welcome to the Meat Hat Circus. We travel the forgotten roads collecting the guilty, the liars, the betrayers, those who wear masks of honesty while their souls fester. We do not kill, we improve. We reshape you into the perfect reflection of your sins." He reached one long, many-jointed hand into the meat hat. When he withdrew it, he held up a tiny, shriveled human hand, still twitching. This belonged to the greedy farmer 2 counties over, always hoarding grain while his neighbors went hungry. Meet the hoarder. The hoarder shuffled out under the spotlight, a bloated torso on stumpy fused legs and arms that had grown together into useless, swollen lumps. Extra limbs sprouted from his ribs like pale, grasping worms, fingers opening and closing constantly. His belly was enormous and kept expanding and contracting with wet, gurgling sounds. His mouth had been sewn shut with thick black thread, but the stomach never stopped demanding. It growled and sloshed as if something alive was trying to claw its way out. The crowd shifted uncomfortably as the smell of starvation and rot rolled off him in waves. The meat hat dipped in again and produced a pair of still blinking human eyes. For the vain beauty queen who mocked everyone uglier than her, behold the glass-eyed lady. She turned slowly into the light. Her eye sockets held swirling silver mirrors instead of eyes. When she looked at the audience, reflections appeared, but warped. Mrs. Harlan saw herself ancient and tongueless. Tommy Reed saw his own face covered in his wife's blood. Emily whimpered as her reflection showed a belly splitting open to reveal nothing but black emptiness. The glass-eyed lady's own skin was cracked like old porcelain. Every time she tried to force a smile, the cracks widened and leaked clear fluid. Another dip, this time a long, matted lock of coarse black hair. For the envious sister who poisoned her prettier siblings' dreams out of jealousy, meet the hair weaver. She crawled onto the stage on all fours. Thick, barbed hair burst from every pore, not soft, but wire-like and alive. It wove itself into nooses and chains that wrapped around her own arms and legs, tightening with every heartbeat. Fresh strands pierced her skin from the inside, drawing thin lines of blood that the hair immediately drank. She whimpered as the hair tightened further, cutting deeper. The meat hat pulled out a small, withered tongue next. For the false preacher who sold salvation for cash, the pinhead prophet. His head was grotesquely elongated and compressed, the skull misshapen like an overripe fruit. Tiny religious symbols grew like tumors across his forehead, glowing faintly and burning his skin whenever he tried to stay silent. His tiny mouth moved constantly, whispering every lie he had ever told in a voice that carried to the front rows: fake healings, stolen donations, affairs with parishioners' wives. The words spilled out whether he wanted them to or not, louder and faster, until he was almost screaming. Then came the limb collector, a walking nightmare of mismatched limbs grafted at wrong angles all over his torso. Some arms still twitched with the muscle memory of their original owners. One leg kicked involuntarily as if trying to run away. His crime had been stealing body parts on the black market. Now those stolen pieces were his eternal prison, constantly pulling him in different directions, tearing at the seams where they had been crudely sewn into his flesh. And finally, before the real horror began, the echoing liar, a man whose entire body was covered in open, ear-shaped slits. Every time someone in the audience spoke, even whispered, the slits repeated their words back in their own voice, but twisted and mocking. He had once been a gossip who destroyed lives with rumors. Now he could never stop hearing and repeating the very poison he used to spread. The meat hat smiled, his grotesque hat dripping faster now. All these beautiful improvements, and we're just getting started. The air in the tent had grown thicker, hotter. The canvas walls began to pulse like living lungs. Thick ropes on the ground stirred and slithered with wet, fleshy sounds. He pointed straight at Sarah. You, the abortion you hid from your boyfriend 6 months ago, the money you stole from him for gifts while you were fucking another man behind his back. Sarah went deathly pale. Her hand turned to ice in mine. She stammered, "He's lying. That's not..." The meat hat turned to Mike. "And you, best friend, how many times did you drain his last dollars? How many nights did you climb into his girl's bed while swearing to him she was pure? How many lies did you wrap around him like a warm blanket?" Mike's grin crumbled. The two people I trusted most looked at me with the same raw guilt carved into their faces. The tent came fully alive, the exits sealed with a sickening squelch of knitting flesh. The ropes rose like veins and began to coil. They took Sarah first. The mouth woman glided forward and seized Sarah's face in both hands. She forced a long, obscene kiss that seemed to last forever. When she finally pulled away, something wet and living passed between their mouths. New mouths erupted across Sarah's cheeks and forehead, ragged, toothed slits tearing through skin and muscle with audible wet rips. They immediately began whispering her secrets back at her in her own trembling voice. The lies, the stolen money, the other man's name moaned in the dark. But that was only the beginning. Her once beautiful face with those sweet dimples started to change in a horrifying rhythm. One moment her features twisted into a wide, manic laugh, the same bright laugh she used to give me when we drove through the cornfields at night, eyes crinkling, dimples deep. The next second, the expression collapsed into uncontrollable, choking sobs, tears streaming from eyes that were already swelling shut. Laugh, sob, laugh, sob. The cycle grew faster and more violent, her new mouths joining in, some giggling wetly, others wailing like grieving widows. Her hands, still mostly intact at first, began to knead and squeeze her own body as if she were on display for an invisible audience. She rubbed her breasts, her thighs, her rotting belly, fingers digging into flesh that was already turning soft and black at the edges. Pus and dark fluid leaked between her knuckles as she pinched and massaged, presenting herself like a sideshow performer begging for applause, even while chunks of her skin sloughed off and fell to the dirt with soft, wet plops. The smell of decay rolled off her in thick waves, sweet and meaty like spoiled fruit mixed with blood. Her legs buckled, but she kept kneading, kept alternating between that broken laughter and those endless mascara-streaked tears until they dragged her away, still performing, still rotting, still trapped in an eternal loop of fake joy and real despair. Mike fought like a wild animal. They strapped him to the wheel of fortune. It spun with the grinding of bones. Hooks of black sinew and barbed lies descended. They flayed his skin in long, curling sheets. Beneath was only a writhing nest of dark threads. Every lie he had ever told me made flesh. The threads lashed out and stitched him into something new. His arms were the first to go. The hooks sliced clean through at the elbows with a sound like wet wood splitting. The severed forearms dropped to the floor, still twitching, fingers curled as if reaching for one last handshake. Where the stumps ended, ragged flesh knitted itself shut, but black threads kept pouring out, forming crude, useless hooks that couldn't grip anything. His mouth was next. The threads ripped his tongue out by the root in one sharp yank, leaving a gaping, bloody hole that could only gurgle and drool. No more smooth lies could ever leave those lips. What remained of his face tore wider into a permanent clown's rictus grin, cheeks splitting to accommodate it, while his eyes, still painfully human, bulged with unending horror and regret. He became the betrayer clown, arms ending in bloody stumps, tongue gone forever, body jerking in silent, voiceless apologies that no one would ever hear. I stood frozen as the people I loved most were remade into monsters that perfectly fit their sins. The Meat Hat finally approached me. He plunged his fingers deep into the quivering mass on his head and withdrew a single bloody human tooth. "Keep it," he murmured. "If you ever begin lying to yourself, we'll return for the rest." At dawn, the tent folded in on itself like a living thing digesting its meal and rolled away on creaking wheels into the mist, leaving only scattered clothing and the stench of sugar and corruption. The old man fell silent for a long time, turning the fresh poster over and over in his hands. 30 years. I kept that tooth in a jar on my shelf. Mrs. Harlan still lives down the block. She lost her tongue that night and now writes everything on little note cards. Tommy Reed vanished completely. Emily still walks the fairgrounds some nights, whispering to the empty space where her baby never grew. I told myself I was strong for never trusting anyone again, but the truth was simpler and uglier. My sin was weakness of will, refusal to accept what Sarah and Mike had really been, living every single day trapped in memories of the way Sarah's dimples appeared when she smiled at me, the way Mike would slap my back and call me brother. I clung to those beautiful lies because facing the truth would have meant admitting I had been a blind, pathetic fool whose love was built on sand. 2 days ago, this new poster appeared nailed to my trailer door. Tonight is the final performance. I'm going back. Not for revenge, not for answers. I'm going because I still can't let them go. Because even knowing what they became, Sarah laughing and crying and rotting while she kneaded herself like a performer who couldn't stop, Mike gurgling silently from a mouth with no tongue and arms with no hands. I still love the versions of them that only ever existed inside my head. That's my sin, weakness, denial, living forever in the past instead of facing what was real. If I don't come back, the Meat Hat will finally have one more piece for his collection. The old man stood slowly, joints creaking like old wood. He tucked the poster into his coat pocket, picked up his old flashlight from the table, and headed for the trailer door. If you ever hear that cheerful, slightly wrong calliope music drifting through the cornfields at night, stay inside, lock your doors, face your truths before they come looking for you. Because the Meat Hat Circus is miniature hell on wheels. It doesn't kill the guilty, it improves them, and sometimes the worst monster is the one who walks back in willingly, still clinging to his beautiful, deadly memories. Outside, far across the fields but growing steadily closer, the faint, off-key melody of the calliope began to play, cheerful, inviting, and terribly wrong. The old man clicked on his flashlight and stepped into the darkness, walking toward the fairgrounds one last time.